Welcome back to the Rory Talks Arsenal YouTube channel. Welcome back to the Arsenal newsroom. Today we have a video rather than a live stream. One of my friends is leaving London, so we're going out for some drinks later. But there is news, interesting news to talk about today. We're trying to be consistent with the channel, so here we are. If you are new, please do subscribe. We're on the way to 25,000 subscribers. And if I could ask you to click the like button and go down and do the hype thing in the comments, that would be fantastic. But without further ado, let's get into things, starting with this news coming from Sammy Mockbell, obviously an incredibly reliable source, that David Raya has been rewarded with an improved contract. Arsenal reward David Raya with an improved contract, underlying his status as one of the club's key players. Pay rise agreement reached earlier this summer, contract length believed to have stayed the same, according to sources. Now, this is very similar to what we've done with Leandro Trossard. In fact, actually, I saw on Arsblog, they said a pay rise was negotiated during the summer, but not yet made official, much like Leandro Trossard's improved salary, which was reported back in August. The deal does not include an extension in terms of time. Raya's current deal runs until 2028, and while there is thought to be an option to extend, should the club decide to. So he's either in contract until 2028 or 2029, but he is now earning more money for it. And I think that is completely fair. Do you know what? I think we're at the point where I'm seeing more and more people, especially because of Alisson's injury record, say that Arsenal have got the best keeper in the league. And on paper, the numbers he's putting up, it's hard to say otherwise. The fact is we have a top goalkeeper, and tying him down or making sure that he's happy with what he's earning is a completely sensible thing to do. I don't know what he was on originally. I think it was barely 100,000 a week. Barely 100,000 a week. I would do many things for that. But in terms of a first-team player and one of the best goalkeepers in the world, that's not a huge amount of money because he came in and at the time was competing with Aaron Ramsdale. So, yeah, he's earned that pay rise, and it's just another player added to the list of, you know, basically our best 11 and more that are all tied down until at least 2028, you know, at least 3 years from now. So, very good. Once again, an example of Andrea Berta being proactive. Not reacting to things, not letting things get to the point where they could be worrying, being proactive, getting ahead of the game. And I love that. I think it's really important to the club. Moving on, this kind of came not out of the blue today because there's been talk of a stadium expansion going around, but Sam Dean with The Telegraph, an exclusive. Arsenal are planning a major expansion of the Emirates that could see them move to Wembley. Detailed work has gone into a potential overhaul that would restore Arsenal's status as the biggest ground in London. And The Telegraph posted, Arsenal exploring options to increase the capacity beyond 70,000 as the 20th anniversary of the move from Highbury approaches. Now, this is bigger than we expected. There had been a lot of talk about Arsenal expanding the stadium by maybe a few thousand seats. But a lot of the talk had been about how difficult a big stadium expansion was going to be. One of the biggest reasons was that when we built the Emirates, they didn't really leave much capacity to grow. So the deal that we have at the Emirates in terms of the footprint of the stadium, there's no way of expanding beyond that. If you look around, it's all housing and stuff. So you can't expand the footprint of the stadium, which obviously makes expansion difficult. And the way that it was built wasn't massively designed to expand it upwards or anything like that. So this kind of major expansion came a little bit out of the blue. However, it does line up with that news that came out, was it last month, early last month? Otto Marley being one of the people joining the board in that big reshuffle. And it was reported at the time, Otto Marley will lead the charge to expand the Emirates, having played a central role in building the 100,000 capacity SoFi Stadium. A modest increase of a few thousand seats is the most likely route. Now, that was back then. Now we're thinking, you know, if you're pushing over 70,000, that's 10,000 seats extra. That is big. That is major. And it may require us moving to Wembley whilst that is happening. Now, interestingly, I saw this from Dan Critchlow. It's understood the club have options to change the gradient of the stands. This would be the way to do it, in my opinion. You'd get more fans without having to increase the stadium's overall footprint. That would be brilliant. Like, if you increase the gradient, which means basically making it steeper so that you can get more seats in the same area, you're going to have a 70,000-seater stadium where fans are closer to the pitch than ever before, and you really put the fans on top of the pitch. That's how you create an atmosphere. Like that could be really, really exciting. Because if you look at the lower tier, it's not steep at all. The gradient of the lower tier isn't steep. I mean, I'd even say the upper tier, it's not massively steep compared to, I guess, if you really pushed it to the limit. So I think we could create something really imposing. Obviously, going up to 70,000 seats, there's a pro and a con to that. The pro is obviously there are lots of games that lots of people want tickets for that can't get tickets for the big games. Would there be a danger that some of the smaller games you actually can't even sell out? Maybe. Maybe. I'm not too sure. What would they do in terms of season tickets? You know, we currently have 40,000 season tickets. Would they increase the allocation of season tickets in line with the expanded stadium? Man City haven't. Man City's expansion will lead to no more season tickets because they make more money without season tickets. So that's one interesting thing to keep an eye on. But overall, I think this would be really good. In terms of how long this could happen, it's not going to happen next year. I did see a thing. Arsenal turned down the option to host Euro 2028. I think there are going to be games here for Euro 2028, and Arsenal turned down the opportunity to host them. So some people think that means that stadium work may be happening in summer 2028. So, you know, you're 3 years away from that. We'll keep an eye on it, but exciting and another sign that, like, the Cronkies are heavily, heavily invested in this club and in the future of the club. So all good. Final thing I wanted to talk about was this. I've seen so much of this today. It's actually crazy. Every other video I scroll past is about Declan Rice, comparing him to Moises Caicedo mainly. I mean, this one actually from the overlap was about Tonali. Sandro Tonali. Paul Scholes thinks he's better than Declan Rice. It's mainly been Moises Caicedo. Seeing this debate left, right and centre. It's international break content. I understand that. But actually, I think it's a good thing. Now, I'm not going to sit here. I don't need to preach to you, right? You are the choir. You don't need me to tell you we're happy with Declan Rice. Don't need to argue his cause. What I would say is it's always good when we get to this point. You know Arsenal are doing well when they can't really criticise the team. They're not really criticising Mikel Arteta. And instead, they're pitting our players against their best players. Right? So it's Rice against Caicedo. Why isn't it, if you think Caicedo's the best in the league or whatever, why are you not pitting him against either Rodri, who most people would say in his prime at full fitness is the best Premier League midfielder, or based on form, last season people had Ryan Gravenberch as the best Premier League midfielder, but you're not pitting Caicedo against them. You're pitting him against Declan Rice. You see them pit Reece James against Jurgen Timber. We're at that point. They'll talk about whether or not Bukayo Saka is world class. That'll be the conversation during the international break. This means they have very little to criticise in terms of what Arsenal are actually doing right now. And I enjoy that. I think that is good. So, yeah, I'm not going to get into any back and forths as to whether Rice is better than Caicedo. I would rather have Declan Rice playing for my team than Moises Caicedo. They're both elite players. But yeah, I just thought it was quite funny. Anyway, look, that's going to be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, please do subscribe if you're not already. Please do like the video. Please do the hype thing in the comments. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully, we will be live tomorrow, news dependent. Otherwise, maybe Thursday. I'll see you when I see you on the next one. Until then, goodbye.